Charles Louis Mortgage Advisors, 0161 959 0166.
So let me start by asking you, Paul. First of all, you are a football man. You will have watched a lot of football. Have you seen the City games of late? Did you watch the game on Friday night at Swindon?
I did. Yeah, I did. Listen, they're just a different level, aren't they? It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter who he puts out there. They're just producing performances of. They've just got a style about them, haven't they? They're so fluid in the way they're playing, and it doesn't matter whether it's a young 17, 18, 19-year-old steps in or whether it's a senior player. It's just seamless, and the football that they're playing is really, really good to watch. And the other side of it as well, everything is they've got such a good plan going on. It doesn't even matter if the assistant or Pep's not there. You know, Rodolfo steps in and he takes the game, and everything just seems fine. And I know Swindon are not at the level of Manchester City, but the level of performance was really, really good. Really exciting. You look at players like Cole Palmer. I mean, what a finish that was for his goal. And, you know, if it was David Silva or, you know, one of these, they'd be talking about it for weeks and weeks afterwards. And, well, it's Cole Palmer. He's a young English player. It's just normal. Well, that's not normal, sticking that in the stanchion like he did for that goal. So it's really good to watch, isn't it?
Well, I'll come back to Cole Palmer if I can in just a moment, but just on you on a personal level. I know you were involved with England for a while, and from the way you talked before, what are you doing now, Paul? Are you still involved in the England setup, or have you moved on to other things?
No, I left the FA in August of 2020. An ex-player who played for me when I was manager at Shrewsbury got the Bristol City job, Dean Holden, and he asked me to go along to be his assistant. And I suppose that just goes to show what an old git I am now, that he's asking me to go as an experienced coach to go and help him. But I really enjoyed it. I spent a good few months with Dean, and then he lost his job. Nigel Pearson came in and took over. And everything seemed to be going fine. But then once I had about 9 weeks off altogether in the summer because of this sort of illness that I had. I find it really hard to call it an illness because I wasn't ill. And Jackie always says to me, "You were ill. You had cancer, so you were ill. Don't play it down." But anyway, I had 9 weeks off. When I went back after the surgery, it just didn't feel right to me. The dynamic had changed, and Nigel's really, really experienced. He didn't need an old git like me to be there helping him. He brought Curtis Fleming in, who he wanted as his assistant. So we came to an agreement, we shook hands, and we move on. And I'm now looking to get back in. I feel really well. I feel refreshed and just want to get back in and get another job as soon as I can.
I know I was a bit alarmed when I saw that you were ill and that you had cancer, and you just told me before we started recording this that you're now thankfully cancer clear. I mean, that must have been a very stressful sort of few months, was it?
It was really strange. I mean, we all see these adverts around, don't we, for, you know, 1 in 2 people will be hit by cancer in their lifetime, and you think, no, it's not that high. That won't happen to me. And I felt really, really well in the summer. I felt really fit. I was looking after myself. I was going to the gym 3-4 times a week and doing what I could as a 55-year-old bloke. But I went to have just a routine health check. And I'd had a bit of a cough for about 16, 17 months that wasn't hurting, wasn't an issue. But during the COVID pandemic, you walk into a room and you're coughing and people are looking over the shoulder thinking there's something a bit dodgy going on. So I went for this health check, and they said, look, we want to try and get to the bottom of the cough. We don't know what it is. And they sent me for a CT scan just to check my lungs and my chest, see if everything was clear. And about 2 days later, I got a call from one of the doctors, and he just said, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't tell you what your chest and your lungs are because they're perfectly clear. But on the scan, you've got a tumour on your kidney, and I'm not going to flower it up in any way. It's too big to be anything else. You've got cancer, and we need to remove your kidney. So that was a real shock to the system. But the service I had, the treatment I had was absolutely first class. Surgeon at the Christie's Hospital, Mr. Gullam Hussain, took me in, whipped out my left kidney. And it was quite funny, really, because when I spoke to him after the surgery and I said, how was it all? Would everything go all right? He went, yeah, it was uneventful. And I'm like, uneventful? You just took my bloody kidney out, So, but that's the way he was. He was brilliant, really, really good. 6 weeks later, I was back on the grass at work again, and I feel really, really good. No issues around it, and fingers crossed. I've just been very, very lucky and had it found early, treated well, and I'm in a good position now. So hopefully that's the end of it.
Well, as somebody who's known about you for a long time, and we've been friends, I think, for a long time, what a great start to 2022 to find out that news and to find out that you're a lot better. So great news, that, Paul.
Cheers.
Let me come back then to Cole Palmer. And obviously you were a winger yourself. You were left-footed. And you look at somebody like Cole Palmer, who's, I don't know, he's probably about 3 foot taller than you, but he's not a little player. I've watched him a lot, and I know that during your time at the FA, I saw you at the CFA on a few occasions. You will have seen Cole Palmer starting to come through, just as you'll have seen Foden, just as you'll have seen other young players too. How highly do you rate Cole Palmer?
Oh, really highly. I mean, the first time I saw him, I think he was probably about 13 or 14, playing at Blackburn Rovers in an under-15 Floodlit Cup game. And he just stood out. I mean, in this team, there was people like Tommy Doyle playing, Deli Bashiru, Taylor Harwood-Bellis was playing, but Cole, even though he was a really young kid playing in this team, you could just tell he had so much ability and really good balance about him. And he has really grown. When he was really young, he was a bit of a dot. He's a real skinny little kid, and he was very small in those younger years, but he's had a massive growth spurt. He really has shot up. And then I then sort of followed, because at the time when I was watching that under-15 game, I was working with the England under-16, so he was actually too young to play for us. But I was watching, and we had we had Doyley, we had DiMaggio Phillips was involved as well, and I know he's left to go to Stoke, but there was some really talented boys, and you could see that Cole was going to be one who was going to come through, and he's just carried on. And I was never fortunate enough to work with him in one of the national teams, but everybody spoke really, really highly of him, and this season he's coming into his own and getting first team football as well, isn't he?
Does that mean you never talked to him personally, never got to know him as a person? Because I was going to ask you about his character.
No, I didn't. No, I never actually, I don't think I've ever met him, to be honest with you. I mean, it was one of them. I remember after the game, I watched them on this night at Blackburn Rovers, and then I also came down to the academy and watched the Saturday morning game. And I remember speaking to Mark Allen and saying, tell me about this lad. How old's he? I think it was 2001 birth years we were looking at the time, and he said, no, sorry, Simo, he's far too young for you. You can't have him in your age group. But so I never actually got that opportunity to work with him.
I mean, obviously, young players, the character is a really important thing. You'll know this far better than me. I mean, here's me telling you that. You can tell me that, because lots of young players have amazing ability, but they don't all make it. Yeah. Now, I look at Cole Palmer when I watch him in the EDS, and there's a swagger about him, which you can see as a positive, a sort of an arrogance, a real confidence. He did an interview after the game where, you could tell he was quite sort of, I don't know what the word is, but he was full of himself, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
And even when he scored that brilliant goal at Swindon, I believe he'd had a chance to cross the ball just before that, which he should have used, but he ended up putting in a brilliant goal. So it's all forgotten straight away. So where do you stand in terms of, I suppose it's sort of nurture versus nature, that argument? Is he the type of player who needs to be brought down, will be brought down, needs to be taught the team ethic, a bit like we've had the discussion about Grealish and whether he fits the Pep Guardiola model, or is Cole Palmer just such a talent that none of that really matters?
Well, I think he's such a talent, but he's working in an environment with top players, isn't he? And the way that it works, when you're in that first team environment, we'll go back a little bit further. When you're working in an academy environment, so when he's playing in the EDS, he is considered to be top of the tree with those lads. So when Cole makes, and this is me just presuming, this is how I've seen it happening. When he makes a mistake with his peer group and that EDS group, it's probably one of them where they go, oh, we won't say anything to Cole because he's like top dog here, so we'll just leave him. But when he goes in that first team environment, and I'm presuming he's training day in, day out with the first team lads, if he keeps doing it and it's not right, he will get a bollocking from those senior players. You know, they're not going to accept it. And when I say a bollocking, it might not be a ripping a shred off him. It's a strong word that, no, that's not what you do. That's not what we do here. We score for the team. We do things that are right for the team. And when you've got a talented player like that, you know, you made the point that he probably should have crossed it earlier. Well, he didn't, but eventually he'll learn that it's the right thing to do to cross it in. And it's the team ethic around it, isn't it? It's like, it's not all about you, Cole. Don't you think you're World Cup Willie and you can go past everybody and bend it in that time all the time. It's not going to happen. So you have to mix your game up, and sometimes you're crossing it in, and sometimes you might go down the line, and it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. Because if I'm a fullback playing against Cole Palmer, I know he wants to come in on his left foot. So I'm going to show him down the line. Now, if he takes him down the line, and Cole Palmer's bloody quick as well over them first few yards, he takes him down the line and beats him. The next time the fullback's going to think, hang on a minute, I ain't going to get done down the line again. I'm going to give myself another yard so that it's not an equal race. Then he checks back inside on his left and he's got a little bit more space to do it. And you've just got to get inside the defender's head and basically just spangle his head that he hasn't got a clue whether you're going line, whether you're crossing it, whether you're shooting. It's that cat and mouse game that Cole's got. And he just needs to make sure he keeps getting consistent end product when he's done all his little tricks and flicks and stuff like that.
Perhaps you need to be in City's coaching staff telling him that, Paul.
I need a
you've
job,
got that
Cheesy,
experience on that side. Go on. Sorry, I talked over you then.
I say I need a job. Keep going. Yeah. No, listen. They have got some top coaches there. I'm quite sure they're doing it. You know, you look at the work that the improvement in somebody like Raheem Sterling over the years. How effective he's becoming now. You know, my big thing about wide players, and it was something that I used to try and focus on all the time. And unfortunately, towards the end of my City days, I wasn't quick enough to keep up with David White going down the right-hand side. And when Whitey was crossing it into the box, I was just outside of the areas where I knew I needed to be because my little legs couldn't get me up there quick enough. And you've just got to, Raheem Sterling has now got himself into those positions where he's scoring goals consistently. And that's what he needed to add to his game. He's done that. Cole Palmer is a player who needs to make sure there's consistent end product at the end of his little mazy runs. Phil Foden, he's just got everything. He can see a pass. He's got ability to go past people. He's a waif of a lad. He's getting bigger and stronger, but he's a waif. He's got that real core stability that when he's got big brutes trying to knock him off it, he's just got unbelievable balance that he can stay on his feet and he can glide past people. And I've watched Phil for years, and I have been fortunate enough to work with Phil with the under-19s. And at times you stood there as a coach going, how the bloody hell did he do that? How did he get out of that situation? But he's just got so much ability that, and that's being coached and developed through the staff that they've got there.
If I was to ask you, and this is a game everybody likes to play, if I was to ask you to nail your colours to the mast, who's the better player, Cole Palmer or Phil Foden?
I've got to say Phil. I have to say Phil Foden, really. I mean, I'll be honest with you, he didn't do particularly well on the camp when he was with me. We had a couple of little issues with him and Jadon Sancho at the time that I had to leave him out of 2 games. But his ability was incredible, real talented player. There's a possibility Cole could go on and be even better. But for what I've seen so far, Phil is just head and shoulders above any young player I've seen for a long time.